Well, good morning. This is normally on Mondays, but since our week started kind of today, we're starting a real estate backstory on Tuesday this week. So we do this every week. We kind of go over the comings and goings, what's happening in the real estate world. My name is Alan Richardson. I'm the managing broker here at Maximum Realtor Realtor Partners.
My name is Ming Richardson. I'm the compliance broker for Maximum One Realty and Realtor Partners.
And so we wanted to kind of start off, hope that you had a very nice holiday as well. But we want to start off with, this is also Realtor Safety Month. And so that's a really big deal that we need to be very self-conscious, this is a heavily female dominated industry. There is, I hate that we have to have a discussion where we have to talk about creepy people.
Well, safety, y'all. I mean, there's no money in the world that's worth your safety.
And a lot of times I see a lot of realtors take their safety for granted. And so we need to be very smart about and wise really about what we're doing. When you get that like anytime you get a phone call or you meet someone or they ask to meet you and you don't feel comfortable, listen to yourself. Nearly every one of those where it turns negative, in the mass majority of cases, the realtor said, I felt something like it was off from the beginning. Listen to yourself. If your spidey sense starts tingling, like pay attention to that. Never walk through doors yourself the first time, like open the door, step back, let people walk in. Don't present your back to anyone. Don't go down to the basement by yourself, that kind of stuff. Make sure folks know where you are and what's going on. Vet your clients before you meet them. These are all just really basics that we need to be very conscious of. If you haven't taken it, NER has a realtor safety class coming up, and it's a webinar, so it should be really,
it's very convenient.
Yep. And so they do have one about unmasking threats and enhancing safety. And so, we at the brokerage, we will hold safety classes, and I have to say the thing that hurts my heart is nobody comes. They're probably our least attended classes at the brokerage.
When Ricky does it, it's a great time. He actually hosted at ammo
at a gun range. You get to shoot things. So that's a little bit different. But normally when we just have straight safety classes, they don't get a ton of attendance. And so we're just asking to really pay attention to your surroundings, your safety. Take your safety serious. This is absolutely September is Realtor Safety Month, and so let's kind of take that into play and let's be smart about that.
Well, if nothing else, just refresh on the memory, and sometimes it's about the new ideas, new techniques that can be taught. So just keep that top of mind.
Yep. All right. Moving on. How important are pets? Well, there's a new study. There's a new study by Zillow, and whether you're representing buyers or sellers, these are some very important numbers right now. Right now, 68% of all buyer households have a dog, and almost half have a cat. That's more than kids, folks. All right, so I know that a lot of our buyers have been first-time buyers have been waiting off on having children, but they have dogs, and so sometimes our sellers don't realize how important pets are. Sometimes agents don't realize how important pets are. We have realtors who are like, oh well, they're not very big deal. They kind of down talk it and poo-poo it. Listen, 78% of all buyer households have a pet. And so that's 3 out of 4. So the vast majority of folks that you're working with or that you're selling to is going to be a pet. That's why fenced-in yards are such a huge deal right now. More people have dogs, and so it's so much easier when you have a fenced-in yard.
And I have clients that talk about when I go do showing, they talk about, oh, we need to know what a boundary is so we know where to put the fence at.
Yeah.
And not only that, just remember during pandemic, nearly all humane shelter animals were adopted. So that actually increased the pet population in the household.
Well, but the interesting thing is that if you look at it, it's almost double between what all households have versus about 40% of households have pets, but almost 70% of buyers have pets. Only 22% of households have cats. Almost half of our buyers have cats. So, that's a really big deal, and one that we need to be communicating there. All right, so I want to share some slides with you about migration and migration patterns, and they might be a little hard to see on the screen, so I'm just going to kind of talk you through it. And so this is the migration patterns across the United States, and you can kind of see that the areas in blue. That's when those are the negatives kind of thing. That's where the population is actually going down. Now the areas in either kind of that pink or help me out, mauve,
No,
red.
it's not
Yeah,
red.
I'm a guy, so we
It's a
speak like a
tannish
guy.
orange color.
Okay, tannish. So, okay. Anyway, those colors are where we're seeing more migration moving into it, a positive migration. Now, I wanted to show you the overall nation first, but this is what here in the Atlanta metro area looks like, and you can see that overall net migration of people moving into the Atlanta metro area. All the Atlanta metro area counties were positive, with the exception of Clayton County. Actually, Clayton County is the only county that did not have a positive change in population, which I found to be very interesting, because there's no excuse for it not to be. But
I do see the Clayton County revitalizing a lot of its area, and its public common area are looking really nice.
But well, and hopefully that will play out. But you can see overall that the Atlanta metro area has a very positive change in population, and the outside suburbs are also that they are growing in population as well. So it's not like we just pluck from the suburbs. Now, if you get out in like super rural, not so much, but especially inside the Atlanta metro area is very much that way. Now, where does that come from? So first thing is, we've been making babies. We may not make babies as fast as we adopt pets, but you can see that inside the core of Metro Atlanta, Fulton, DeKalb, that kind of stuff. Cobb, yeah, we're having more. We are growing just through normal baby making kind of thing.
Population.
Yeah, thank you. And then now, on the other hand, we have domestic migration, which is where people are moving either from inside the United States. And you can see that we did have two counties that had negative migration, and which is interesting because it was Clayton County again, as well as Cobb County. I'm sorry, DeKalb County. And then Cobb was down just a little bit. And then we had a kind of a mixture around the rest of Atlanta Metro, but most of the Atlanta Metro had a very positive net migration numbers. And so these are things I like to kind of show, just so that you can understand like where are people moving, what are the patterns, why does it matter, what's going on
hot based on the migration and population.
And so you can kind of see what's going on there. Overall, domestic migration and immigration drove population growth in most counties, including here in Georgia. So it is domestic migration that is probably the biggest driver. There is some immigration that happens in Georgia, but most of it is not in in the Atlanta metro area. There are some areas of the state, that kind of thing, especially down south where farmland, that kind of stuff. There's a lot of immigration coming in that way. All right, completely changing gears. So GREC released their, GREC submits a newsletter once a month. And so they've really been focusing this month on commingling. And, commingling is, it's a term that refers to a situation as a violation of Georgia license law rules and mishandling trust funds. And so
if trust fund and combined with personal fund, it is considered commingling. The broker or any licensee cannot put money in a personal account and write a check to deposit into the trust account. Now be considered commingling with his own fund. So in addition, whenever anything of value is provided to a licensee as a trust money, such as earnest money or security deposit, it must be given to the broker in the same form. So what happened is, even if your client give you cash and you decided you didn't want to carry $5,000 cash around you for the weekend, so you went and converted into a money order or a certified check, you essentially have commingled. So what happened is, when you change the original form of what was presented to a different form, even though they're same value, they're considered commingling. So please don't do that.
Well, and then they also, they released three really recent examples of actual investigations they've had to make. And so, the first one was a salesperson handling rental property. They got the money sent to them via Cash App, and the Cash App was in their personal
Correct.
account.
It's not a broker's
Yep.
account, so therefore they have commingled. It's a simple task of convenience. Sometimes people don't think about these things through. That can get a licensee in trouble.
Yep. And then they had one where the broker, they're getting $2,100, but there was some litigation dealing with it, and so they were ordered to pay out. And there were court fees associated, and they paid the court fees out of that trust account. The trust fees had to come out of the operating account, and so the broker got violated or fined for that one. And then also another one where, and this is part of the reason why we don't do property management, and we don't encourage it, is that another salesperson accepted $1,000 money order from a tenant as rent and put those accounts into their personal account, and so you can't do that.
You can't. So, unless a contract specifically state a certain method of delivery or tendered by tenant, you cannot commingle the funds at all.
But the last one here is that also applies, especially if you are a real estate professional and you have rental property.
So just remember, if you collect security deposit, it has to come to the broker escrow account unless you have permission having an outside escrow by the broker. All right. And if you do, that has to be recorded with correct as well.
So right now, times are a little bit tough for our millennials. However, they are really, really resilient. So, even though all the things that are happening in our market, higher interest rates, property values continue to increase, and they aren't coming in with a lot of equity like our boomers are, over half of the millennials. And so there was a recent study, and over half of them still plan on considering buying a home in the next year. Actually, I'm sorry, 61% of millennials said that they would consider buying a home this year. And even with everything else going on, 60% say that conditions are favorable for buying. And so we have to watch out that we aren't getting in our own way here, because a lot of the millennials, for our consumers out there, where do they associate how's the real estate market? They do that by what's happening with pricing. Our values continuing to go up. Is there, will my house be worth more next year than it is now? The answer is yes. We have way more buyers than we have sellers. Properties values are continuing to increase, and the millennials would like to be a part of that.
Right. And they, once again, Alan said, they're very resilient.
Yeah.
So therefore they know what is good in long term, and so therefore they are going to pursue it.
Yeah. So the millennial generation is the most likely of any generation to tap into their equity. And so they're ready, they understand the idea of growing wealth through real estate. We need to make sure that we're taking advantage of the fact that this is probably our best educated generation when it comes to the process of home buying, building wealth and equity through real estate. Now, at the same time, 61% of millennials said that again that they plan to buy a home in 21, and this is in direct contrast to everyone who says, oh, this is a renter generation. This is not a renter generation kind of thing. And so
the millennial, most of them are well educated, and they're looking at all the scenarios, and they understand that in order for them to build wealth, they have to buy a home, and instead of paying rent, where the money goes to someone else.
Well, two things here. One is we know that the biggest buying pool right now has been boomers, because they've been coming in with a lot of equity. And so I've seen where a lot of folks in the real estate community have kind of written off millennials.
Mm-hmm.
Don't write them off. Homeownership by millennials has gone up 64% in the last 5 years. This is a generation that's going to be very important. Yes, they're also very susceptible to interest rates because they need that. But as we see interest rates drop, which we saw this past week, thankfully, there's just going to be a bigger piece moving forward. So even though all that's going on, the share of buyers who bought for the first time has been rising for the last 3 years. I mean, insignificantly. I mean, it was in 2021, it's down 37%. Now we're 45 and then 50 this past year right now. So it's a big deal. We need to be paying attention to that. If you haven't seen the news from last week, unemployment went up a little bit. And I know that sounds like, oh, that's not good. I mean, employment drives a lot of things in real estate. But the other thing that it drives is it really does drive interest rates, and it drives inflation. And so we've seen inflation starting to level off, and it still has a way to go. And the Fed aren't looking like they're dropping the federal funds rate anytime soon.
Mhm.
But the good news is that we did see
Slight.
a slight drop. It's actually 7.06 right now, so it dropped even more since this came out last Thursday. So interest rates are starting to cool off. We are starting to see it, but they are still over
Yes.
7%, and a lot. But here's the big shocker that like is surprising for everyone. Mortgage applications have increased for the last 3 weeks. The last 3 weeks, when interest rates were 7.4, 7.3, and 7.06, mortgage applications have been up for the last 3 weeks.
And I believe that is due to the fact that the general public are looking at these interest rate and know they're not going down anytime soon. And yet they need to basically build their wealth in their four walls. So therefore, they're go ahead and see.
If you
where
need to
they can
buy, you need
get.
to buy. That's the
And
thing.
I'll tell you, there's a lot of mortgage company right now is doing a lot of down payment assistance program,
Mhm.
and that's what's fueling some of the application.
Because the good news is that pending sales now is going on 2 months trending up. It is now trended up for the last 2 months. So pending sales is going up. And of those pending sales and where they're trending up, guess where the biggest area is? In the South. And so, overall, this is NAR's version of how they gauge hotness and interest in the market. And you see that the South has the most activity and relative to the last, in the last 20 years kind of thing. So in the South, we really are kind of leading the nation as far as it goes. Now here in Atlanta in particular, and this is just Atlanta, and this is just for properties that had an FHA mortgage. On those properties, in the last year, property values have increased by 2.4% in the last year. And so, it was up about 3% in the last quarter, overall 2.5% for the year. Now, and guess what? This is really healthy for us. Like we want it
Right.
to be a just moderate growth. Not, I don't want to see prices go through the roof because we know we're going to have a bubble, and I don't want to see prices drop because all of a sudden that's going to freak everybody out. So
Went to the roof during pandemic, so therefore now the housing prices are back to where it should be.
yeah, so right now they're averaging about 1.7% up by quarter, and this is kind of what the graph looks like, and you can see that through 2020, 2021, you could really see property values continue to increase, and then they didn't decrease. What you see is that we're still above the line.
Mhm.
It's that the rate of increase
It's
was
much
more,
less.
yeah, it's a lot more moderate, exactly. And so that's really, really healthy for our market. Like we couldn't, that was not sustainable. And so getting into the normal 4% property value price appreciation range is going to be very, very healthy for our markets. Now, all that being said, we get so many calls like, hey, what's going on with foreclosure? What's happening? What's going to happen on there? So in June of last year, the mortgage delinquency rate nationwide was 2.9% a year ago. Now it's 2.6, and that's a 0.3% drop from a year ago. But it's not just and that goes across the board, whether you're talking about 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 100, like everything has been dropping. And as far as where are they dropping, across the board, the red areas, those are the ones that have dropped even more so. And the green areas, like where Georgia's in the dark green, it's we're still down 0.1 to 0.2%. And then the gray areas, it's down a little bit more, and then the bright green, those are the ones that just haven't moved.
Right.
And so nowhere in the US is our mortgage delinquencies happening going up we're just not seeing it. Like, look, go to HUD Home Store. Like last time I was in there was like 7 HUD homes for the entire state of Georgia. So like foreclosures, yes, there's always going to be a certain percentage of folks that will shove their head in the sand and won't deal with it. So we will always have some level of foreclosure
A
activity.
lot of time too is that they don't understand what the market's doing and what option they have.
No, but still,
So,
it's at some of the lowest levels you've ever seen. We don't see anything happening in the foreclosure, loss mitigation
mhm.
area at all going on right now. It continues to just be really, really down, which is good for our market. Really, really good. Now, one area that is on fire at the moment is land. Land has been just blowing up. And so, land was really hot in 2020, 2021, and then it cooled off a little bit in 2022. And then it's back to being very, very popular.
Well, that's because if you think about it, we have still demand for homes. So it takes average of 2 years to develop land. So during, back in 2020 through to 2022, most of those property were prior foreclosure that people has held on to it and developed. That was already developed actually, their final plat of land. So, and now people are looking at a large plat to develop, and that business is going because of demand for housing.
But, whether we're talking about neighborhoods or single family homes or just acreage, land is really on fire right now.
Mhm.
But one part of the reason why we bring this up is not just to say, hey, it's hot. It's to, like, are you prepared to work with clients on land? Because it's not that normally it's not that it's a lot harder, but there are differences in handling and helping your clients navigate
Correct.
through land purchases. How much money do you normally need on land is very different from what you need on a single family home. you know some lenders will work with land. Some lenders don't really have a land product out there.
Mhm.
Most of the time, like what kind of inspections do you needs to be done on land is really going to be determined by what's the
usage.
use, right?
Yeah.
And so like you want to put a gas station on it, that's really, really different. And then understanding that zoning is a big deal with land, because what a property is normally zoned for is generally speaking what it's going to end up being used for. Or you have to be ready to kind of take that through that whole process, and that's another can of worms we're not getting into today. But so there are differences. Get training, because there is a great opportunity for agents who are very competent with land right now. Now, the other thing is there's a new study about the cost recovery for interior and exterior remodeling projects. These are like what are the projects, like what's your return on investment? And so there was a recent study earlier this year. Now there's another one, and the results are really very, very similar. Flooring,
Always.
big deal. Insulation upgrades, like
Efficiency.
anytime that we can make the houses more efficient, it's going to be it's going to be very important. Basement conversion. Anytime that you can take a basement and turn it into, especially if you can turn it into multifamily, not necessarily multifamily, but where you have 2 different living spaces in there. I know that we're kind of dancing on the subject because most of our zoning laws are single family, but we're having a lot of multifamily households,
And
multi-generational households.
the parents in the main floor or the parents in the basement, depending how the arrangement is.
Yeah.
And whether or not there's a drivable driveway down at the lower level. And the children will be on the main floor or on the basement.
Yeah, because that's a really high demand, as well as attic conversions are.
Mhm.
So those are probably your best ones on the exterior. I'm sorry, interior.
Interior.
On the exterior, it's very similar to what we saw earlier this
Yeah,
year.
curb appeal is so important.
It is. I mean, it comes about lawn care, lawn maintenance, and landscape upgrading.
Yeah, outdoor kitchen has been really popular lately. So
Well, and especially here in the South, it can be hot as blazes, and we don't care. We're still going to sit out on the porch. So,
what's like covering?
but so kitchen, patios, decks, that kind of stuff, always a great return on investment for that. Now, the National Association of Home Builders came out and they just released the fact that single family now these are new construction homes. Single family new construction homes are now smaller than they've been in the past decade. And the trend is not looking like it's going to end anytime soon. Now, we attribute this highly to the growth of the townhome market. We see where there's so many townhomes under construction right now. And I fully understand that. One smaller property, when you have a smaller property, they cost less, the mortgage is going to be less. And with higher interest rates, that's kind of a need. The millennial generation wants housing. We saw that earlier. So anytime that the builders can offer a product for that. And so I guess this is not that surprising, but we're not, what you're seeing with the builders right now, they're not building the big McMansions at the moment. They're building a lot of much smaller homes, and the trend is to continue to go small.
Absolutely.
So, now we had Tom Ferry last week. We're still, if you need the slides, all the slides from Tom Ferry are all the branch managers have those slides if you want. We are still waiting for the Tom Ferry replays, and as soon as that happens, we will be
announcing it.
Yeah, throwing those out there for you. Remember, we have weekly accountability every Monday at 9 in all of our offices.
Except this past Monday.
Well, not this past Monday, but accountability is one of those things that we all hate, but know we need. And so please
And
get that support that
you may
need.
feel like it's a waste of time, but I can tell you, there's a lot of synergy when you come together and discuss ideas of what works and what doesn't work.
Yep. So if you need your Max One swag, please go to maxonemarket.com. And then this week, today, actually starting really soon, it's going to be is introduction to Connect MLS. That's here in our McDonough office. On Wednesday, we have Code of Ethics, our promise of professionalism.
Actually, Martin's teaching that one.
All right, great.
Good job, Martin.
He's going to be teaching that in Fayetteville tomorrow, and then on Thursday, it's going to be DISC is going to be building relationships in real estate, and that's going to be in our Conyers office. So hope that you guys have a great week. If we can be of any kind of service, please call, text, smoke signals. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great Tuesday, actually.
Yeah, good catch.